corner from Hunter and sporting the insignia for the 75th Ranger Regiment, leaned forward in his chair. He had an amiable Midwestern accent that pegged him as having been raised in a place that grew two things: corn and evangelicals.
"You're Leonard Meadows, Chief of Staff."
Hunter watched the older man incline his head and realized the Ranger was right. He remembered seeing Meadows standing behind the president when she took her oath of office.
"And you're Sergeant Britt Rollins," Meadows replied. "The man who led the successful raid on Abu al-Bakar's compound in November 2020.
Hunter raised an eyebrow. That had been a hell of a coup. A mission that had earned the respect of every Special Forces operator who'd ever held the title. In typical Army fashion, Rollins shrugged self-deprecatingly and gave credit where credit was due.
"Couldn't have done it without my team, sir. That job was a joint effort from start to finish."
The Chief of Staff narrowed his eyes consideringly.
"Speaking of the job, Sergeant Rollins, do you enjoy it?"
The Ranger's chin jerked back in surprise, and Hunter found his own chin doing a little downward jig. It was rare to be asked that question, especially given the nature of the work they did. People didn't like the idea of someone actually enjoying being a soldier. After a brief hesitation, Rollins answered honestly.
"They pay me to do it, sir, not to enjoy it."
The man sitting next to Rollins, a handsome son of a gun sporting the Delta Force Airborne insignia, snorted in agreement, while a small smile curled the corners of Meadows' stern-looking mouth. It appeared the Chief of Staff was pleased by Rollins's response. That, or he'd been expecting something along those lines. When he turned his piercing gaze on Hunter, training and habit had Hunter sitting straighter.
"And what about you, Major Jackson?"
Meadows' deep voice was tinged with curiosity.
"When you think about your career so far, what do you envision for your future?"
Hunter could have prevaricated or given the standard response.
"I'm a military man through and through. I plan to keep on keeping on climbing those ranks, sir."
But, like the Ranger, he went with the unvarnished truth.
"To be honest, I don't think much about yesterday or tomorrow. Yesterday is full of shit."
He winced. The military was known for cursory cursing. Sometimes he forgot to censor himself around civilians.
"Sorry."
He cleared his throat.
"What I should have said is yesterday is full of things I'd just as soon forget. And tomorrow may never come, so there's no use wasting my time on it."
Meadows nodded and then continued around the table, asking each man a slightly different question and getting back the same kind of response. When he got to the end of the line, he sat back in his chair, steepling his fingers under his freshly shaved chin.
"I have a proposition for you, gentlemen."
His tone made the hairs on Hunter's arms stand on end. In dread or anticipation, he couldn't say.
"I hope each of you will seriously consider it."
Hunter listened intently to the Chief of Staff as he offered them a deal that seemed almost too good to be true. And when Meadows finished his pitch, silence cloaked the room. The only sound to break it was the hum of the air conditioner and the thud of Hunter's own racing heart. Exhaling slowly, he practiced box breathing and felt the beginnings of, maybe not excitement, but something a lot like it. 1. Stark County, Indiana, 3.5 years later.
"Some nights are so dark, the dawn seems impossible."
The words Grace Beacham's father spoke to her that awful evening her husband filed for divorce came back to her as she used the outdoor spigot to wash the blood from her hands. Hands so shaky she could barely perform the task. Hands so pale, the brightness shining from her lit cell phone screen made the skin appear translucent. She could see her veins snaking beneath her flesh, like holding a leaf up to the sunlight. Her father had been talking about the depths of her despair and the weight of her failure. But now she felt the simple truth of his words. If she believed that text message, this moonless night may very well be her last. Rubbing her wet hands on her thighs, she snatched her phone off the ground and forced herself to look at the screen again, hoping that